and welcome back. I can hardly contain my excitement right now because I have the brand new Riviera palette from ABH. I went on the hunt for this baby. I had to drive an hour and a half one way in order to pick this up. The only store that launched it the day of the 7th was the farthest store away from me. I drove 3 hours round trip to pick this up, so it better be good or I'm gonna be pissed. So let's just go ahead and start checking out this palette because I'm too excited. The outer carton looks like this, pretty standard for ABH, but really cute. Little nautical packaging, which looks exactly the same as the actual packaging of the palette. And then let's open her up. Ooh, there goes the little brush. Inside of every ABH palette, you do receive a little dual-ended brush, one with a fluffy blending side and one with a flat eyeshadow side, which here, so you guys can see a little close-up of these shades. There are 14 in there. It is a mix of metallics and mattes. 3 of them are a pressed pigment, so they are gonna have to be worked a little bit differently. And that is gonna be this hot pink shade, this purple, and this matte brown over here. Knowing that those 3 shades are pressed pigments is a key piece of information, because if you go into it thinking they are going to perform just like the other matte shades, you may be a little bit disappointed, because typically with pressed pigments, you have to pack the color on first and then blend it out. You can't just dip into a fluffy blending brush and start blending it like that. Usually that doesn't work out. I don't know how these are going to perform, but I am going to treat it how I would a normal pressed pigment and pack those. And then there's just one thing I want to mention before I move into the swatches. This has raised in price, so it is now $45 for their palettes, which I got to the checkout and was like, ah! You said what now? Because with taxes, almost like $50 here in California. I was like, okay, swipe. Just something I want to mention because I was a little bit shocked at checkout. Not really anything we can do about the price, but I just wanted to inform you guys since the prices have raised on the palettes. But yeah, now let's move into some swatches. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. Whoa, they feel like butter. Oh my god, they just melt on my fingertips. So here is the entire palette swatched out. Holy shiitake mushrooms, the pigment is real. I only did one swirl around and one little swipe down. I don't go back and forth over it. This is just purely going like boop, so that is intense. I went ahead and moved you guys closer because now we are gonna start playing with this palette. I have something in mind. It's definitely gonna be using a lot of color, which is what this palette is all about. I'm just priming my eyes with the Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion in Eden, so that way we get a really good base. There we go. Now that the eyelids are all primed, let's take the first shade. I'm gonna go ahead and take Sails, this matte white, and I am gonna use that shade just to lay down as a base, just to help set the primer, make sure everything is gonna blend out smoothly. And sometimes putting down a white base before you go in with really pigmented colors can help the looks pop a little bit more. Whew, there is some pigment in that matte white shade. And now that we look like a proper panda, let's go in with another shade. Okay, what do I want to take? I'm thinking today's look is gonna be a halo eye. I have a little bit of a vision in my head. Hopefully I can create it to somewhat what it looks like. I'm gonna just go for it. I'm gonna take the shade Canes over here, which is one of the pressed pigments. And I'm using my Morphe Y19 brush. And the way I picked it up was just on its side and just pressed into it. I'm gonna pack it on in that same method first. Both inner and outer. Holy pigment. Whew, I love that. Oh my gosh. And I'm just packing that on first so that way I can go back in and blend it out since it's the pressed pigment. I should have maybe tapped off the brush a little bit more because I am getting quite a bit of fallout here. But that is one of the reasons I did not start with foundation, just because I had no clue how these were gonna perform. I'm gonna do a test. I'm gonna wipe away that fallout, dip back into that shade Canes one more time, just packing it on the brush. Now I'm gonna really tap it off and see if you still get the same intensity, but less fallout. Oh yeah, still quite a bit of pigment. I do feel like you get better payoff though if you do not tap off the brush as much. Good to know. When working with colorful eyeshadows like this, especially pressed pigments, I am prepared for fallout. It's not really anything new. A lot of palettes do have it, especially with bright shades like purples, which purples are one of the most difficult to get a good formula of, and this is just so vibrant. I am in love. Next step, I'm gonna take my E36 by Sigma and I'm just gonna start blending out the edges a little bit and start dragging that purple across and just start rounding things off. We wanna create that C shape. Okay, created the C shape. I did lose a little bit of its intensity over here when I ran the brush over it. So I'm gonna dip back in with my Morphe Y19 and just press on a little bit more to intensify things. A smidge more, because I want it really vibrant and purple. Now let's take another shade. I want to go in with Bahamas, this hot pink, another pressed pigment. The pressed pigments are so interesting to work with, so I'm experimenting using different brushes. This is the Y18, which is a fluffy flat eyeshadow brush, and I'm just gonna start packing it along this C shape that we created. Hold on, maybe that was too fluffy. Let me try a Real Techniques shader brush and just take it on one of the flat sides. There we go. I think that works a little bit better than that fluffy flat shader brush, or flat eyeshadow brush, I mean. And I'm dipping back and forth, just really pressing in some pigment. Oh man, this eye look looks insane so far. That's just facts. I'm hoping that it turns out good. And I'm not gonna focus too much on really blending that out because I wanna add one more shade on top of it. I know you guys are thinking I'm insane. I'm gonna take the shade Monte Carlo, which is a lighter, softer pink. This is supposed to be a regular eyeshadow, not a pressed pigment, so I'm taking it on my Luxie 121 brush, and I'm gonna run it along the edges here, using this to work in with that pink and help kind of diffuse it out in an attempt to soften out the edges. Not experiencing any fallout from that shade, which is nice and definitely helping to work out that pink. With that blended out, let's take a little bit of concealer. I'm gonna take my Tarte Shape Tape, coat up my little concealer brush, look straight ahead, plop a little bit of concealer on the center here, since today is gonna be a halo eye. We're gonna need to carve that eye out, so I just pack a little bit here, look up, and then use that as my guide. And halo eyes are one of those that I find always looks the weirdest before it starts looking better. Like at this point, I'm even thinking this is not gonna work, but trust me, it all comes together. I'm just using a little tiny flat brush to pat out the edges here. Like I said, it looks worse before it gets better. For the metallic shadow, there is two that I want to work with. So I'm gonna start first with Mediterranean. I'm gonna load up my finger because that is the best tool and it's free. Just gonna pack it on the outer and inner part of the concealer. I do leave a little bit of a gap of concealer here, but that is because I'm gonna be blending in the purple and a darker shade into it. So I like to really extend out the concealer so that way it has a base for that. And then I will not bring in the shimmery shades quite as far out, if that makes sense, because I want to leave that for the deepening. Sometimes I feel like I don't even make sense. Oh man, but this color is gorgeous. Wow. Ooh, I love the way that looks. I do want to try to use a brush though. I'm gonna use my Makeup Geek foiled eyeshadow brush, give it a little bit of a spritz, and then go in on this side with it. Ooh, wow. Even with the brush, that color is intense. That shade is stunning. Oh man. I can't keep staring at this whole lot. I'm gonna really quickly wipe that away. I now want to take one more shimmery shade or metallic-y shade. I'm gonna take the shade Satchels. I'm gonna take that on my MAC 248, giving it a little spritz. I'm gonna pop this right in the center. I am in love with these metallic and shimmer shades. But now that the shimmery shades are on, I'm gonna work the outer corner a little bit more and just start to define things. So I'm gonna be dipping into the purple called Canes once more. I'm gonna use the same brush. Oh man, I just wiped up the under eye. And I'm gonna start to pack that shade on the outer corner, merging it with that shade Mediterranean. I'm just really laying it down to make sure that color is intense. And I'm just lightly with this brush, kind of grazing over that Mediterranean shade. Maybe dipping it back into it one more time. This is probably one of the most random color combos I have ever created. I envisioned something a little bit different in my head, but kind of enjoying how it's turning out. I'm not playing safe today. And then let's take my favorite little tiny detail brush. Where are you? There it is. The Sigma E17. This is a waterliner brush that is flat, but my favorite way to use it is to just dip into the palette and then start to press that color along where that halo or cut crease is. And this will give you the most intense pigment around it, and it'll look really good since you do lose a little bit of the intensity when you do cut the crease or create that halo shape. This just helps to bring a little bit of life back into it. So just being very gentle and bringing that around that shape. When that little detailing is done, let's wipe away the fallout one more time. And then last but not least, let's take one more shade, Palm. Another pressed pigment here. Taking that on my Makeup Geek pointed crease brush, and I'm gonna just pack it out in the very outer part of the inner and outer parts of the lid, just to deepen things up a smidge more. And a little bit of fallout with this brown shade as well, but you know, it's pressed pigment. I kind of expect the fallout from those. Then going back into the brush we used earlier, the E36, I used the purple. I'm just gonna run it along the edges of that brown since it's right next to that purple. Doesn't really matter if we mix the purple and the brown together. It's kind of what I want. I'm just kind of blending that brown up and diffusing it a little bit. And then in case you lost any of the purple, I'm actually gonna take the flat side of the ABH brush that I got in the palette. Just gonna tap over where that purple meets the brown. Very gently. I'm not going to try to pack too much pigment on there, but that's just in case you need to revamp that purple a little bit. Make it a little more stand out-ish. Alright, I'm gonna really quickly pop off camera, wipe up the under eyes, apply a complete face base, and then I will be right back so we can complete the under eye and the rest of the eye makeup together. So I'll be right back. Now let's finish up the under eyes. I'm a little bit scared because of the fallout, so I have to be very delicate, really tap things off. I'm gonna take the Canes shade, and I'm using the Real Techniques smudge brush, and I'm just gonna use this along the lower lash line, using little pressing motions, and I'm bringing it all the way across. Then I'm going to take the shade Bahamas, which is the vibrant pink shade, with another brush by Real Techniques, but this is the shading brush. I'm going to run it very gently along the edge of that purple. I'm going to make some weird eyes right now because I don't want fallout, but I still want intensity. And then maybe just ever so gently taking that shade Monte Carlo, the lighter pink shade, and running that along the edge here. Yeah, I think that helps soften things up. Now we can start to wrap up the look. Let me get some mascara. I'm gonna take a little bit of the NYX Worth the Hype and start to really coat up the top and bottom lashes. For today's eye look, there is no way you can have subtle lashes with this. You need something like pow out there. So the only really intense lashes I have is the Violet Voss Sexy and I Know It lashes. Not exactly my favorite pair. I prefer the I Donut Care of the Violet Voss. But these are the only intense lashes that I have, so they're gonna have to do. You need to get some more lashes. I've been using mainly natural ones, but you need those ones for the dramatic times too. And here we go. Oh, look at those caterpillars. Yes. I feel like lashes on really colorful or really dramatic looks just help add to the drama. Without the lashes, I feel like it's a little bit missing something, you know, it needs the intensity of the lash. I mean, just look at that. Made the look. I think I'm gonna call this look Cotton Candy, because that's just what it reminds me of with the blue and the pink. You know how the cotton candy is usually of those two tones? So that is what this look reminds me of. But let me give you guys my final thoughts on the brand new ABH Riviera palette. So there's a couple things I do really want to mention to you guys. Number one, if you have not worked with pressed pigments before, I do want you going into it cautiously optimistic, because it is a trickier formula to master. If you're going into it never having worked with it before, you may not have the best experience at first. I did not when working with it the first time. I still don't think I'm the best at working with pressed pigments. It takes a little bit of practice because it's not as easy as just dipping into any regular old eyeshadow with a blending brush and just swirling it around and going in with it. You have to be a little bit more gentle, work with packing on the color first and then gently blending it out, and you have to go into it with that in mind. Because otherwise you may go into it and be like, oh my god, this isn't working, I don't like it. It is a trickier formula, but they do that because the intensity is a lot better if you have a pressed pigment rather than just a straight up eyeshadow. I do have quite a few colorful eyeshadow palettes. I am a collector, if you will say, and I do have to say that colorful shadows like these two are pretty difficult to master. So I think the intensity is definitely there, and if you use the right technique to apply it, use the packing motions and all of that, the intensity is 100% there. I mean, this eye look is stunning. Aside from that, I mean, these shades are just so gorgeous. I want to keep playing with all of these shimmery shades, and they feel like butter. Love, 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 love the colors. So gorgeous. One other little detail, I do wish that the outside would have been a different color, maybe just a solid blue. Oh, but the subculture was a solid blue. I don't know, something a little bit darker, because the white on top of this I feel like is gonna get very dirty, and it being the fabricy material, it's gonna get stained so fast. I already got some purple stains on it, so this is gonna get dirty very fast. I mean, that's the only thing. But other than that, this palette is amazing. This eye look, I can't stop staring at myself in the mirror. I'm just enjoying it way too much. So yeah, that is my review on the Riviera palette. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video, me creating this fun cotton candy look. If you did, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell button. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!